Hello and servus everyone from Vienna. I'm Matthias and I'm super happy to be here today as well with the topic digital storytelling and the social media algorithms. And why this topic? Well, some of you might have this experience. Once you spend a little while on social media, the algorithms filter out everything according to your interests or people you're connected with. And we wanted to explore how does this function in the background. But first, let's start a little bit with the world of social media in general. It's not standing still. Every time there is something new. And on the one hand, we do consult clients on how do they get the message in the right moment to the right people in the right time. And on the other hand, these internet platforms trying to get to more and more about us. So we will look a little bit on a corporate side, but also on the private side with the effects on us as users. So the very beginning, and something I always do is, well, we all know that social media is different than old media. And the key ingredient of this difference is basically the possibility for dialogue. But yet, when we look to most of the companies and organizations running social media pages, we see that they use it as they used to use old media, like creating content and then just publishing it. But the real effort and the real value of social media is starting the dialogue, which means we need to see what is the response from the users and how can we jump in. Also, if we think of social media, then, hey, I can just distribute my advertising. It's pretty wrong because most of the users obviously go to social media to see the pictures of their friends, to read the news, or to get entertained. Almost no user is actually going to social media to see the content of companies bombarding them with advertising. So the key ingredient is actually stories and value over advertising, and then starting a dialogue instead of just thinking, hey, I distribute my value proposition to the users and then they take action. Also, social media, obviously, number one activity in the web. I think till the year 2017, this was porn consumption, but now we moved forward as world, and now the number one activity in time spent in data traffic is social media. And it has a huge impact in many parts of our life. We cannot just say social media is online. It has a huge impact of our offline lives. Just to give one example, 2 in 5 US couples meet online, 4 in 5 gay couples meet online, 1 in 7 divorces involve social media. We've just seen the recent report from the UK where 1 in 3 divorce papers has the word Facebook in it. And as said, social media is not just something we can do quickly on our phone, but has a massive impact also of our offline lives. When we look here also a little bit further, social media in terms of e-commerce and what these companies can do is incredible. Almost 93% of all shopping buying decisions are influenced by social media. And this is quite massive with the topic dynamic pricing. And in the end of the day, it is just a story to be told. Well, I tell the story to buy a product more expensive for a user with a high-end product and high-end device he's using. And if I know this user cannot spend so much on something, so I might give him a different suggestion or a different price. So I'm a male. I'm sitting here in Vienna in the 2nd district. I'm using the latest MacBook. And when I'm looking on Jack Felix or booking.com for flights or hotel rooms, I may get a certain price because the system believes with my end device, I can afford a certain price range. So my mom is actually 53 years old. She sits in Salzburg on the countryside. She's using a super old computer with Windows and a very old operating system. When we at the same time on the phone check flights and accommodations, there's a very high chance that she will get the things up to 5, sometimes up to 10% cheaper than I do, just because by the device I'm using. And this is, for the algorithms, one of the most important things. What's the behavior I do when I use social media? Most of us know already, hey, it's obviously, we know that we need to be careful what we put out there. We need to be careful what we like, and we need to be careful what we comment and what we say. But most of the data gathered by these companies is done by our behavior, which is mostly not so much on our attention in the first place. So every time I log in, every time I be on the run, every time I'm on the desktop or on the phone, or whenever I use social media, every single small detail is tracked and evaluated and then used later for the advertising system, for companies to advertise in different directions. It's never ever 100%, but it's so good enough that they make millions of dollars, especially when we look at Facebook and all these companies which it belong to, WhatsApp, Instagram, Messenger, and so on. When we look here further, what is the digital behavior around the world? Yeah, well, we have 7.8 billion people around the world, 5 billion which have access to a phone, 4.6 billion who have actually access to internet, and 4.2 billion which are actually active social media users. This is approximately 53% of the world population. But if you think about that, there are a lot of children and a lot of very old people and a lot of people with no internet access at all. Social media can reach basically the population of the world who is also willing to vote, buy, and do things. Of course, there's a margin which is not reachable via social media, but the majority of the world is. And to the company's platforms and how big they are, I hear so often, yeah, Facebook is not relevant anymore, they're dead. And this comes right from a wrong assumption. Just because we don't use Facebook, the platform or the app, as we did 5 years ago, doesn't mean that it's less relevant. In fact, Facebook's company is more relevant than ever before. And yes, there are some competitors, but look quickly at the numbers. Facebook is with the #1 platform around the world with 2.7 billion people, the absolute #1. The second one would be YouTube as 100% daughter of Google with 2.2 billion people. But the real incredible fact is that Facebook has almost 2 billion daily active users. So when we look to the 4 billion people who have access to the free internet and access to Facebook, almost 2 billion, so the half of the world's population who is actively using social media is using Facebook every single day. That means that this is the biggest social network we ever had, the biggest organization and company with the most users ever existed in this world. No religion, no government, no other company could always reach that active number as Facebook does. And this is not just the active user. Every of these active user leaves some certain traces and their data behind by just actively or sometimes also passively using these platforms. And we'll look in that in a second. Also, Facebook is not just Facebook. Also WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, and Instagram are 100% daughters of Facebook. Whenever they can gather information and data, they will use it for the algorithms for us to bring a better user experience or advertising experience for its clients, if you want so. Also, very important in that sense, LinkedIn, for example, as biggest B2B network, is 100% daughter of Microsoft, and Microsoft holds shares on Facebook. So even in this whole conglomerate of companies, LinkedIn is also belonging in the owner structure to Facebook and so on, even though a little part, but they're cooperating wherever they can. If you ever wondered why Facebook and so on using Bing translation or Bing search in their functions, this is because Microsoft has their hands in as well. You see there are a lot of other networks. Just a few words here on TikTok, because TikTok is so quickly on the rise. And when we come to the algorithms, I will also speak quickly about what TikTok made completely different than the other networks, which made them so successful. But TikTok is definitely here to stay. And with almost 700 million active users, very strongly on the rise. And maybe the users which are online there from you as well, you see TikTok is also getting older, especially in the last year. A lot of companies, a lot of older people, older, I mean, no offense, 18 plus. But while the majority is 14 to 18, of course, everything above 18 is also very strong on the rise. When we look here further, what does that mean also for me as a company? Well, you know this channel structure. We have different channels where we communicate. We have our website where is our own channels. And while they're super important, they have been quasi under attack from social media in the last years very strongly. Because these social channels and Facebook and all its products on the front line have created very strong mechanisms to not be getting traffic from Facebook to our own platform. And yet when we have an organization, when we have a company, then always what we want to have is getting traffic from these social networks to our own networks. And we use that by doing links, and links are just the worst option of content type we have, because Facebook has no interest to lose the user from Facebook to your website. If you pay for it, then it's fine, but organically, almost impossible anymore. Also, all these paid channels, obviously, there are a lot of opportunities, especially when we compare to newspapers. Social ads versus offline ads are super cheap, super effective. But at the same time, we don't pay for for all the people reached. We only pay for the ones who are actively in our target group and engage with our content. And so this is very cost effective. But what we always want to create is, of course, this earned channel. When we say this is the word of mouth, viral contents, and so on, or testimonies from clients, things where we don't pay, but other people praise us how well we do as an organization or company. So when we here look further, a super important thing which most of the Facebook page users or the corporate pages don't know or don't look at carefully is, well, all these social media channels have a very strong filter. So if you have 1,000 people who like your Facebook page and you make a posting, it's obviously not going to 1,000 people. It's per average only 5.2%. And that's a very small number, obviously. So this is different for every Facebook page, for every Instagram channel, for every posting, and so on. But the global average at the moment is only 5.2%. And the global average interaction rate is here 3.4%. So one of the most important things is that we cannot assume that when we have a social channel and we have thousands of users, that all of them see my posts. In fact, only a few of them see my posts, and who these few are is only decided by the algorithm of the social media channel. So when we here quickly look inside to that formula, I teach this at the university. We have a whole semester. Now I have a couple of minutes, so let me break it down. The goal of the algorithms is to filter out the postings you created, either privately or on your corporate pages, and then decide to which user it is shown in the news feeds. So the first criteria is always the connection. So they see if you're connected, if it's a user who is liking your page. But then within this, they look at the interest group between the user and you. And they take here as a first criteria the quantitative number of interactions you have with this user or this user have with you. So if we imagine two companies, I like the vegan soup kitchen and I like McDonald's. And whenever this vegan kitchen is posting something on Facebook or Instagram, I stop at it, I look at it, I think like, oh, okay, that's quite cool. So let's see, I like it, I comment on it. And whenever McDonald's, although I like the page already, I see the posting, I don't comment on it, and I scroll over. Well, this behavior is obviously direct, and in the future, the chance that I'm getting postings from McDonald's is much less than from the other company. This is done very carefully with quantitative interactions, but also with qualitative interactions. So by the sentiment of which words we're writing, they are ranking which users and which pages are more relevant for us, and then the chance is higher, and they're ranking which pages are not so relevant for us, and then the chance that their news in my newsfeed are lower. When it comes to that sentiment, this is very critical. WhatsApp is end-to-end encrypted, so the messages are not read by Facebook officially. But all messages written on Facebook Messenger or on Instagram Messenger, and all messages written publicly as a comment, they are tracked and used to see the sentiment of the connections between two people or a person and a company. Also, that we have on Facebook the chance to not just give a like, but a wow, ha ha ha, love, angry, or sad. It's not that we have more fun, but that Facebook can learn the emotional value to a different layer or context to text. Also, what we need to look inside is the posting itself. The more interactions a posting itself gets, the more chance it is that it's more distributed to other news feeds. And the weight of the interaction makes a difference. Just looking at a posting for 3 seconds is the smallest indicator. The next biggest indicator is actually an active contribution like a like or the heart or a reaction. The bigger contribution in that would be a comment. So whenever a user comments, this gives relevancy points. And if this comment even gets closer to the text of the original posting, then it's even more relevant points. And Facebook thinks, oh, that was a really good content. The users are reacting with more content. So this must be very valuable. So we distribute it more. And the highest form of feedback from this user is basically a share. Whenever a user decides to share your content, Facebook recognizes, oh, this was so worthwhile that this user decided to share it with their own networks. So this is the best and highest feedback you can get. So Facebook knows if a post gets a lot of shares, this automatically gets also more organic reach because Facebook knows that this was relevant for many users. So you see, the most important for your organization and for companies and so on running social media are positive interactions. We need the user to start a conversation with us, and we need to keep that conversation going. To just publish things and then let the user just see it is not enough, because over the long run, they will not be in the news feeds anymore. Also, the type of the posting makes a big role. Obviously, a posting which is just text and a long text, we as social media users are very lazy sometimes, so we know that short texts are very easy to consume, so more people will consume it. Also, we know that a picture and social media is better than only text because it's multimedia content. And we also know that video is even better than picture, because on the one hand, the user is entertained and can look at it and have sound and multi-visionary and multi-senses to watch the content, but also the platform itself has an interest. So Facebook has an interest to have more video, because when a user watches a video, the user spends more time in Facebook, and that's exactly what they want. The worst type of content, and I mentioned it earlier, would be a link. To have Facebook pages where I only post links is the worst thing you can do, because the platform is banning links as much as they can, because this is a paid option for them. Also, recency. It makes a difference when it was posted. So first you need to check the times when it's good. Mostly, for example, the average user in Austria is online between 8 and 9 p.m. But this is something you can check in your respective countries or on your pages. And then 1 hour before would be a good posting to post. While all these things are very easily tracked, they connect and evaluate every interaction we do between user and user, between user and page, and also between user and interest. So while most of the social media channels were designed to fill the news by the connection we have, so you know that yourself, you get news from people you are friends with on Facebook, and you get in your feeds postings from people you have followed on Instagram, or same on LinkedIn. TikTok made one key ingredient completely different. The For You page, so the newsfeed of TikTok, decided to only show you things where you have an interest in, no matter the person. The person and the connection to the person doesn't really matter anymore. The real one thing, the most key ingredient, is what you're interested in and how you behave to watch it. So if you have a certain area of videos you like to see, they give you a few randoms, shirtless dancing boys, fashion, cooking content, whatever it is. You will get the things you will watch and interact the most with as well, but not by the weight of the connection, but the weight of the content itself. So when we look here further, obviously all this social media behavior leaves a track. So whatever you do online and on social media, it's tracked. And my favorite example here is, just think if you end a relationship. Obviously, we don't hope that, but if you end a relationship, also your social media behavior extremely changes. You will listen to different music on Spotify, you might watch different shows on Netflix, you write to different people on your social media channels, you might check out different people on social media, you might download Tinder or Grindr and whatever. And all this data leaves obviously a lot of tracks that Facebook, for example, can assume, oh, you are single now. And even though you never told the platform that you're single, they can just assume it by all these data points. And these data points can also be very dangerous, but also very exciting. One example here would be, you all heard of this Cambridge Analytica scandal and so on, but there were quite some research about it, and they found out quite a lot of things. For example, with just a few likes on Facebook pages, they can assume your sexual identity. So they can, for example, with screening Facebook pages, find out who you are. And one of the things would be, they found out, for example, that 90% of men liking MAC cosmetics on Facebook are homosexual. And if they find other criteria, like you're liking also the Facebook page of Wicked or the No Hate campaign, then you have almost a 99% chance of detecting whether you're homosexual or not by just a few Facebook likes. And while this is usually no problem, we are out and we are proud, but this might not be the case for everyone, obviously, especially when we do our workshops with youth and so on. They're very often not so aware that every like keeps a very big profile about them online. And with the check of a few likes, I can see very much who you are. Not just with your sexuality, but also your intelligence quotient, your life satisfaction quotient, your psychoanalytical work after ocean, how open you are, how conscientious you are, how introvert you are. Also, what's your preferred topics, your religion, your voting behavior, and so on. So everything you do is taken, tracked, and used later, either for campaigns or in the advertising system. And while this sounds obviously always, oh my God, what is happening? There is a lot of good things also happening, let's say like that. There is a chance to use these people, which we had never the chance before, especially when it comes to LGBTQI community and so on. One tool here, this is from the University of Cambridge, nothing to do with Cambridge Analytica in that sense. It's called Apply Magic Sauce, and it gives you the chance to upload your Facebook profile, and they evaluate who you are by taking only the likes and then giving you quite a strong profile of what advertising companies or what Facebook can detect from you itself. So when it comes to storytelling and what has this to do with storytelling, well, we love stories. We are programmed to listen to stories, and we love emotions. Everything is about emotions. And while this can be very dangerous at social media, because emotions get even more important than facts very often, the most important learning here for companies and organizations is we need to put value and stories over advertising. Running a Facebook page where I just give out information about what's the most important for me as a company is not working. We need to see the right target group and then find the value we can give to them and then communicate about this value. And here and then, obviously, we can put advertising in, but the main channel should be communication about topics that people care about. We also created there a content checklist with our team, working for a lot of clients around the world, from Red Bull to the UN to the European Commission and so on, to, hey, what does it mean to be relevant and how can we put great content out? And this is from, of course, being helpful to also being entertaining here and then, to being super authentic, to have the right quality and use the right formats of using social media. And when we do storytelling, also, hey, are we on the right legal side? Are we GDPR compliant? Also always keep in mind that we want to do a conversation. This is not about just publishing content, but it's about starting a conversation. Also always consider the emotions. So we have the tool of using emojis and smileys, not too much, but here and then we can, when we want to put emotional context to text. Also, the best practice is mostly to keep it short and simple and for the users to easily consume the content from the first place. And the deeper conversations can then go on in the comments or on another place. But the first initiation of the content should be short. Also, we have a lot of ways to connect. So it's not just, hey, we have our own Facebook and Instagram channel, and this is where we post, but we can also go actively to other pages where our target group is and engage in conversations there, which is very, very good. And especially when you think social media very broad, from media networks to forums of newspapers and so on. So you as an organization can also create a user there and be active there and then get users from relevance from their platform to yours. Also, obviously, you need to know your target groups. It's, as I always say, not so easy to know who the group is that is the most valuable for us. But Facebook and Instagram gives in the insights quite a lot of data which we can check out. And this is something we need to keep track of. Also, diversity, obviously super important. Be diverse, fair, ethical, put people first. That's the shortest I can put it. Hashtags, obviously important. The newest info is only 4 hashtags on Instagram. Everything more than 4 hashtags will not be read anymore, so don't overdo it. And in the end, think mobile first. Obviously, the majority of the user will see postings and content online mobile first and only second on desktop. Also, there are a lot of really cool guidelines. So there's the PR Ethikrat, or there's also the LGBTQI social media toolkit from the European Commission, where there are a lot of best practices for social media content and social media storytelling in regards of the LGBTQI community. So this is something I can very much recommend you to check out. Also, very last slides here. Be aware where your customers are. Be aware where you want to tell these stories. Obviously, Facebook and Instagram are the #1, but there are so many more platforms, and you need to be there where your customers and your community are. And this is the best way to keep them engaged and make relevant stories at a relevant space. I have here a few links, so if you want to make a screenshot, this is also where there are a lot of updates and news where I get them from. The last 3 are German. And I'm actually very much looking forward to your questions now.